But to finish this with regard to Francis, as far as I'm aware, it was in the early 40s, but perhaps middle 40s. In any case, Francis spent time with the Baron on his property, working as a simply as a help in the household and on the property, and at the same time studying under the Baron on the path of Sufism. Now, we must go back, because that was one strand, that was one cable, you could say, that brought Meher Baba consciously into Australia. But there were other cables that Meher Baba had laid, and they were, as these were cables that at least I know of. He directed that one of his close disciples, Rustam Irani, should go from Shanghai, I think it was. Baba directed that he should go from there by ship down to Australia, and he called in on the way in New Zealand. I think it was purely a passing few-hour stay, and then came into Sydney. But he was not able to land because he didn't have a visa permitting him to land as Baba wanted him to. So that at least he was in Sydney Harbour, though he had to stay on the ship. Another cable that Baba laid was that a pupil, an Australian woman pupil of Margaret Krask, who was not only a ballet teacher, famous, extremely well-known ballet teacher, but also a very close follower, a disciple of Meher Baba. And this Australian woman was a pupil of Margaret's, and in the process of being with Margaret, she had Meher Baba's darshan. In other words, she was introduced to Meher Baba in the 30s, probably around the middle 30s.
And when was Bayram? When was his trip?
What?
When was Bayram's trip to Australia? What date was that?
What? Who? Bayram who?
Excuse me,
Rustam, 1932. Yeah. And then, of course, that Australian pupil of Margaret's, after meeting Baba, then returned to Australia, finished her training under Margaret, and established a ballet school in Australia. This is what I know. And as a result, certain books of Meher Baba's, all I know is that certain literature was sent to her, but what happened to that literature, I don't know. What is known is that around 1938, maybe the beginning of 39, I'm not sure, she invited Margaret to come to Australia to judge her pupils of the school, the ballet school that she had established. And Margaret then, of course, referred this request to Baba, who then directed that she should reply in such a way that a certain series of cables went back and forth in effect between Meher Baba and this Australian ballet teacher. What happened to her, I have no idea. All I know is that the request finished because of the outbreak of war in 1939. In 1940, again, I do know that Meher Baba requested information about Australia. To what extent, I don't know. But it's another interesting little cable, you could say, that Meher Baba was aware of Australia, certainly at this time. Another interesting little cable, in a sense because of his close connection with Meher Baba, was that Eretz Jesawala, Meher Baba's right hand, mentioned to me how he used to enjoy drawing the outline of Australia when he was at school, and how he was intrigued with the shape of Tasmania, being as it was roughly the shape of a heart. But just an intriguing little side issue. Okay, so all that is how Sufism came into Australia, how through that Sufi connection, through one of those cables that Baba had laid so carefully, Meher Baba came consciously into Australia, and there were the discourses in the middle, roughly the middle of the 40s. An interesting little sideline.
I was just thinking, well, you can add the sideline, but don't forget, then you can go back into your own life.
Yes. To finish that connection with Sufism, as far as Australia is concerned. Now, I've mentioned Francis Brabazon being the Baron's chosen successor. But while the Baron wanted the Sufi society to continue, and of course the path of Sufism, Francis was only interested in devotion to Meher Baba. As far as he was concerned, Meher Baba was God in human form, and therefore his master, and that all that mattered was complete and utter devotion to him, and living in a way that would be pleasing to him. But he hadn't met Baba, although he had been sent to America by the Baron in the around the 1947 mark to travel with Rabia Martin to visit Meher Baba, because Rabia Martin, of course, was herself extremely keen, obviously, to meet Baba and to offer herself to Baba and be accepted by him. But she died before she could leave America on the journey to meet Baba, and Francis returned therefore to Australia. But that desire naturally persisted, so he then heard in 1951 that Baba made a promise that he would visit America and Myrtle Beach Centre that was being established by Nerina and Elizabeth in 1952. So Francis said, that's it. He was resolved to go to America and have that opportunity of meeting Baba. So he set off in 1951, just getting there early in case Baba came early. And okay, so in around the middle of 1952, in May of 52, when Baba came to America, Francis travelled with Ivy Juice, who was the chosen successor to Rabia Martin as the head of the Sufi Society. And they travelled together to meet Baba at the Meher Baba Centre at Myrtle Beach. They came together. Now, Francis was with Baba over the period of 3 days. Well, that's all I know. But during those 3 days, the establishment of a reorientation of the Sufi society was discussed and established by Meher Baba. And he gave it the title Sufism Reorient. In other words, Sufism now devoted to Meher Baba as the latest manifestation of God in human form, following Muhammad the Prophet. Sufism, of course, was devoted. They took Muhammad as God. No, the messenger of God. I'm sorry, the messenger of God. But the true Sufis knew that Muhammad was not only the messenger but also God Himself, and was therefore totally devoted